What's going on, 3DMJers? Eric Helms here with an overdue start to my 2025 contest season. First, I want to apologize. I've actually been dieting 6 weeks. So we're 6 weeks into my contest prep, and I would have started this series earlier, but I traveled to the States, and then after that, our amazing content team, they actually had to move. So I figured now would be a good time to start. In this video, I want to talk about the significance of this season. I want to talk about my nutritional approach, and I want to talk about my training approach, and then my overall plan, which shows I'm going to do, what divisions and categories I'm going to do, and then from there on out, I'll try to update you guys on roughly a monthly basis, and maybe more frequently, but no promises because we know how that goes, and I don't want to leave you guys hanging. But I would say monthly at the very least from now until my season ends. So first, the significance of this season. I did manage to win my pro card by the hair of my chinny chin chin, placing second overall back in October 2023 at WNBF Australia. But then I only had 7 weeks to prepare for my pro debut at the 2023 Open Pro Men's Bodybuilding Middleweight Division, the most competitive division on the most competitive stage in natural bodybuilding, and I was just pleased that I didn't place last. I placed 7th out of 9th. But then I said, you know what, let's bring the same focus that you have to this prep to your off season, and let's exclusively train for bodybuilding. And that's what I did. I turned over every stone, every rock, every grain of sand. I think I'm flipping all kinds of stuff over. But I gave everything I could, and I was very focused, and I have no regrets. I can look back on the 2023 through 2025 early off season, this extended off season I've had, and I said, you know what, any gains I could have made, I'm pretty sure I maximized them. And I do think I'm probably going to be on stage just as lean, if not leaner, and maybe a kilo or two heavier, which is fantastic progress for someone who's been lifting for 21 years, who's in their early 40s. And a big part of that, I think, was that I really pushed what I could handle. I seem to respond very well to high volumes. I've optimized my exercise selection, and probably most importantly, I was not training as a strength athlete at all. I purely and fully committed to bodybuilding. So the significance of this season is that this is my first true pro debut with a pro off-season under my belt as well. And that's pretty cool. I'm checking in every 2 weeks right now with Berto and Brian. Brian, for those who followed my off-season vlog, helped me with my programming, really helped me stay objective and set up the plan that was best for me to make as much progress as possible. Berto has been my prep coach since 2009. He knows my body and my psychology best, and these guys are in my corner. And my posing coach, of course, Jeff Alberts, and my moral support, Coach Brad Loomis. I've got the best in the game. I've got a veritable pit crew around me, and if I get hurt, I got Dr. Nick Licamelli. So I'm feeling really good about everything. So first, let's talk about my overall approach. I'm going to try to actually get my Classic Physique Pro card. So this is a new division, a new category in the WNBF. It's been here for a while in natural bodybuilding, but the WNBF has specifically started it this year. It's a growing division. The rules aren't fully established yet, but what is established and what I really like is, one, it's height classes. I'm a pretty tall guy for my stage weight, so I think I'll do better in height classes. Two, the judging emphasis. Unlike some other natural bodybuilding organizations, you're not supposed to be softer or smaller in this division. It's just that muscularity and conditioning don't add as much weight to your total score, while symmetry and posing do add more weight to your score. So I think between the height classes and that judging weighting, that I might have a better shot at doing better in that category. We shall see. But I'm only a pro in the bodybuilding category, so I will have to do some amateur crossovers in the shows I do this year to see if I can turn pro if I want to compete at the pro level. But nonetheless, I'll probably be doing, either as an amateur or a pro, some shows where I'm both competing as a bodybuilder and in classic physique. So my show timeline, like I said, I started 6 weeks ago. I started mid-April, and my first show is going to be the WNBF Taiwan, which I judged at last year, and it's one of the, if not the biggest shows in the WNBF besides WNBF Worlds, and it's also similarly competitive. It has a pro and an amateur division, and the total number of competitors in the show typically in the October Season B Taiwan show is over 400. So I'm probably going to get smoked, but it'll be really good to see where I compare as both a amateur and a pro, because the pros who turn pro there, or the amateurs I should say who turn pro there, they're competitive almost immediately. So I may very well not get even close to getting my classic pro card in Taiwan, and I might get stomped in the pro division as well. But it'll be really good to see where I land. Right now, I'm on track to probably be ready in late August or early September. I'm losing about 300 to 400 grams per week, so that's less than a pound per week. And I'm currently in the 85.5 up to 86 kilo range, and I think my stage weight is going to be around 80. So if you do the math, I'll be ready early, and I'll be able to eat up into the shows, which is really good. WBF Taiwan is where it starts. And then I'm going to go all the way to Worlds. So Worlds is going to be the third weekend in November. It's going to be in LA. 2 weekends before that is the Mayhem, the show that we've been doing forever, that we have a lot of history with at 3DMJ. And all the founders of 3DMJ, myself, Brad, Berto, and Jeff, we're going to both do Worlds and the Mayhem. So I'm just going to stay in California, see my family there, and that'll be a great end of the season. And that will be where I get to really see and test my mettle if I can get back on the WNBF Pro stage. And I'll be satisfied with this season because I already know I have no regrets in the off season, and I know I'm going to execute this in season, and it'll be the best version of me. I'm already confident in that, which I'm really pleased to be able to say. But hopefully, cherry on top, I might be able to move up the ranks in the pro middleweight division from 7th out of 9th to hopefully something higher than that. But the goal is to crack the top 5. Will I be disappointed if I don't crack the top 5? Honestly, probably not. You know, all of this is a dream come true to have the opportunity to compete at this level. And while I have that competitive goal, ultimately I'm going to do the best I can, and I know it'll be an improvement upon myself, which is all I can do. And we'll see where I get to compete in Classic. If I'm still fighting for a pro card, competing as an amateur at Worlds, or maybe I can do 2 pro divisions, and we'll have to see what crossovers they allow. So that's the competitive plan. Going back to nutrition, I'm losing at less than a pound a week, which is a good pace considering I'm ahead of the game. I did a lot of things right this offseason. I stayed leaner. And part of that is because of my default diet mentality. And that's something we talk about in the Vault, where ideally you want to make your off-season and your in-season seem qualitatively quite similar. So my behaviors are almost identical in prep and out of prep. I'm just making better decisions that more align with my goals depending upon the season I'm in. So that means I'm eating food choices and portion sizes that put me in a slight surplus in the off-season and put me in a slight deficit in the in-season. But what I do on a day-to-day basis looks very similar. I still have Greek yogurt before I go to bed. It's just a lower calorie version. I still go on a walk with my wife every morning to breakfast. I just order things that are still maintaining the same protein, but lower total calories. And the things I'm ordering are not going to have that much variance. So even though someone else is preparing it, there's not going to be an issue of me not tracking it accurately. I'm just getting 3 poached eggs on toast with spinach and mushrooms. It's going to be 400 to 500 calories everywhere, regardless of toast size, because that's just the way those things are prepared. And that's the type of thing I'm doing. Each one of my meal templates is just something where I've managed to create a bit of a deficit. So my average deficit on a weekly basis is obviously probably around 2,000 to 3,000 calories, and I'm doing that with having roughly 3 high days between 2,000 to 2,400 calories, and then 4 low days that are between 1,700 to 1,900 calories. And that for me, I don't burn a whole lot of calories, and it just seems to be what I need to do to get in shape is the pace that I'm at, and it's a good pace. And it's easy. I still just feel like I'm just living life. I kind of set it and forget it, very little decision fatigue, and that's all there is. And I'm just finding a few ways to get a little more steps without intentionally doing cardio. And that's the plan. And it's going great. Another thing that I think has really helped me do this is that I had a really good prep positioning setup. And that's something we also talk about in the Vault. The prep position diet is easier to do if you've got that default diet setup. If your behaviors are such where you're just living the bodybuilding lifestyle, the transition between in-season, off-season, recovery diet, and prep position phase, which we cover in depth in many different courses that we have, those transitions feel easier and easier when qualitatively or experientially your behaviors are basically the same and you're just making slight tweaks and slight modifications. So, as far as training, what am I doing? My training in the off season as you may have seen, got to pretty high volumes. We're talking 20 to 30 sets, maybe even a little bit higher than that on some of my weak points. And I wish it wasn't the case, but that just seems to be what I respond well to. And that's not low intensity, high volume. That's me going to failure on my final sets, 0 to 2 RIR on initial sets, and pushing very hard and using exercises which are very stimulative. And this is just what I need to do. Now, with that said, recovery is definitely taking a hit, and I've noticed it with prep. It's nothing crazy, but I just can't be pushing my absolute limits in terms of recovery capacity like I was in the off season. The good news is that I was definitely doing more than I quote unquote needed. I was trying to make the fastest progress possible. So I have some volume to give. So the way I have adjusted my training, and I think of this very much from a bottom-up perspective. What are my needs? What are my recovery capacities? And then how do I distribute that in a way where each individual session I can recover from? This is something we talk about in the bodybuilding program design course, which I did a lot of the teaching if you want to check it out in the vault. It's basically a way where you think about your needs and then you distribute it rather than taking a split, like, oh, I'm going to do push-pull legs or upper-lower, and then shoehorning your needs into it. It's something where if you understand the principles of programming, you can fit a really good customized program to your own needs, and it might not look like the typical bodybuilding approaches. And that's kind of what my training looks like right now. I'm alternating every other day, 6 days in a row, doing an upper body push and quad dominant lower body session and an upper body pull and glute and hamstring dominant session. And I do on my 7th day of the week on Sunday, I do basically some catch-up work. I do some forearms, I do my calves, I do a little additional lateral raise work, a little bit additional back work, my weak points, and it's a recovery day to then start that process again. And I've lowered my total volume such that I'm getting right around 20 sets per muscle group, which is still pretty high for many people, but it is a substantial reduction between 20% ish to 25% depending upon the muscle group from what I was doing in the off season. And I do certain things with exercise selection just to make the day-to-day recovery between sessions better. So when I've got those refeed days, those higher days, that's when I choose to do exercises like RDLs and good mornings, heavy leg presses, Smith machine squats. And when I'm feeling a little more beat up, I'll get my volume from just doing more sets of leg extensions or leg curls, etc. And also I think about the distribution across the week. If I just did some really challenging, say, good mornings or RDLs, the next day I might not do really hard Smith machine squats. I might do single leg press or something like that. So the recovery is thought relative to other training sessions and also relative to my nutritional intake. And it seems to be working really well, and I think I'll be able to sustain this through most of prep, and maybe if there's a digging phase, I might need to chip away a little bit at the volume or change my exercise selection. But for now, I think this is very effective and it's working really well. Yeah, I think where I'm at right now in terms of my physique and my training and my progress, everything's going really well. And what I commit to you guys is to try to do an update like this every month, talking about what happened. Kind of how I have this habit-based focused, which I think is very doable with my level of experience. And the coaching I get from Berto is very outcome-based. Hey, over this timeline, lose this much weight, make sure you're not too hungry, make sure you have energy, and save it for when we need to dig. And he lets me, as the athlete, kind of on the field, make the right play calls. And that's different than how you work with a beginner or even intermediate, where you need to give them the plays, like this many macros, this many calories, this much cardio. So that's the difference when you work with more experienced athletes as a coach, is you know that they know the plays to call, and you tell them here's where we want to get to, so make the right play calls. So anyway, I hope these insights have been helpful. Thank you so much for following along, and I can't wait to keep updating you with all the things that go on in my 2025 season.